If you guys have ever been told something by a pastor that you just knew wasn't true, I want you to go ahead and hit subscribe below and also click on the bell notification because I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos about this very topic soon. One of the things that most preachers like to say is that we're no longer under the law. And yes, this is partially true because we're no longer under the Mosaic law. But what they miss and what they fail to tell you is that does not mean that we are free from all law. In fact, we are still under law. Let me read to you 1 Corinthians 9:21, where Paul says, "To those outside the law, I became as one outside the law." And here it is, not being outside the law of God, but under the law of Christ. He says, I'm not outside of the law of God entirely, but now I consider myself to be under the law of Christ. In Galatians, he puts it this way. He says, to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Okay? So with any law, there comes commandments. There are things that you have to do in any law. Let me just show you what this looks like. Let's go over to John 15. He says, if you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. And what's his commandment? He says, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. You know, it sounds an awful lot like you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And he says that this is how you fulfill the law of Christ. So yes, we are freed from the Mosaic law. We're no longer under the old covenant. But guys, this does not mean that you're free. In fact, Paul says in Romans 6 and 7 that we've died to the law, saying the Old Testament Mosaic law, we've died to the law so that now we can be slaves to righteousness. And now we belong to another, and that other is Christ. See, we belong to him, and we have to obey him. As with any law, there are commands. In fact, in the New Testament, there's almost twice as many commands as there were in the Old Testament. You see, we're no longer under the Mosaic law, but we're under the law of Christ. And guess what? Christ is going to lead you into holiness. Christ is going to lead you into obedience, and he's going to lead you into love. And let no man or pastor deceive you on this. The New Testament law is much more difficult than the Old Testament law. Jesus came along and he said, you've heard it said that you should not commit adultery, but I tell you, even if you look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery with her in your heart. He said, you've heard it said you shall not murder, but I tell you, if you even so much as call your brother a fool, you're subject to the fires of hell. And guys, make no mistake, we are not free. And if you want to be free, God will let you be free. He will hand you over to that. If you do not want a king to reign over you, make no mistake, he will give you your wish. He will give you your freedom. And he will hand you over to your own desires. But if on the other hand, you do submit to the authority of Christ, then there are commands. There are laws. Jesus said that there's going to be many that are going to come to him and say, didn't we do all these things? And what does he tell them? He tells them, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. See, these people didn't want to have a law. They didn't want the law of Christ. They didn't want the law of the Spirit. See, now we serve in a new way. We serve in a new way, not of the written law of the Old Testament, but according to the law that's written on our hearts and according to the leading of the Spirit. Many pastors today will tell you that we're no longer under any law. Friends, this is false. Paul himself considered himself to be under the law of Christ. For those of you that have ears to hear, let them hear.